address their question. Our resource person for today, Dr. Milind Pandit sir, does not need any introduction, but still I would like to take this pleasure and say a few words. Sir has a MA and PhD in English. Sir is currently working as a head of department of English in MSS College of Science, Arts and Commerce. Sir is also working as a research supervisor in the Department of English under Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University, Aurangabad. Sir has also qualified various exams like NET, SET, and CTET. Sir has also published various research articles which were published in national and international journals alike. Sir has also worked as editor, associate editor, and a peer at various national and international journals. Sir, it's a pleasure to have you here with us today. Without any further ado, I now request Dr. Milind Pandit sir to please take charge and address our meeting. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mihir. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, first of all, I would like to express my sincerest gratitude to Honorable Principal in charge of MP Law College, Mr. Sirsat. Also my beloved friend, Mr. Sri Kishan More, and all the members from the college, Mr. Vyas and Mihir and others. It has been great pleasure to be part of this event launched by MP Law College. I have established a long relationship with this college. It was with the Principal Rao, who was a gentleman. And I cannot forget the kind of respect he always showered upon me. So I miss Principal Rao at this juncture. Well, before I move any further, I would like to ask Mr. Vyas, Dr. Vyas, to allow me to share my screen, please.
Okay, yes, sir. Just a minute. Can you share your screen?
Okay. Oh, yes. Thank you, sir. Again, I am really grateful to each one of you for this opportunity, which is, in fact, great pleasure and honor to me. And to be associated with MP Law College is always a pleasant experience for me. I have chosen to communicate the topic of common errors and proficiency in English. Well, this is an area which requires at least a week's time to deal with at certain lengths, because common errors and proficiency are both the components of English that require a lot of time and patience. In that, the more we try to cover them, the greater we find the number of common errors occurring time and again. But whatever the case, I have tried to put it at the basic level, put it to a limited time. I do not know if I would be able to cover whatever I have prepared, but still it would be my attempt to bring it to a satisfactory close here. Well, friends, since this is a session with the students in particular, I am so happy that I am dealing with the students after a long time, because since the time the month of April came to an end, I could not get in touch with the students regularly or even partially for that matter. So here, let me begin with what is error and what is mistake. For example, error is defined like a mistake, especially one that causes problems or affects the result of something it is missing from it. This is a definition I have picked up from Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary. And if you ask me to differentiate between the two, I would like to say that there is a slight difference between the two, that is error and mistake. And in most of the contexts, we find that error and mistake have been used as the synonyms. But if we try to go to the micro level or the nuances of languages or language, for example, we find that yes, there are certain minute or micro differences that we find between the words, that is error and mistake. And mistake is defined in the same dictionary like an action or an opinion that's not correct, or that produces a result that you did not want. And I have deliberately taken or derived this quote from Wikipedia. So mistake is something that in fact one does not wish to happen. And the difference between error and mistake has been displayed on the Wikipedia when I accessed it on the 18th of the very month. In linguistics, it's considered important to distinguish errors from mistakes. A distinction's always made between errors and mistakes, where the former's defined as resulting from a learner's lack of proper grammatical knowledge, whilst the latter as a failure to utilize a known system correctly. Brown terms these mistakes as performance errors. Mistakes of this kind are frequently made by both native speakers and second language learners. However, native speakers are generally able to correct themselves quickly. Such mistakes include slips of the tongue and random ungrammatical formations. On the other hand, errors are systematic in that they occur repeatedly and are not recognizable by the learner. Why I have read it is that there are certain words like native speaker or second language learner. Who are the native speakers? Let us get understood. The people from, say, the UK, the US, Australia, Canada, etc., are generally treated as the native speakers. Who commits errors? Then this quote clearly indicates that both the native speakers as well as the second language learners. Who are these second language learners? Almost everyone that is not a native speaker and that desires to learn English is the second language learner, or whose mother tongue is not English, simply putting that way. But then the difference between the two has been that the native speakers have always been conscious about committing mistakes or committing errors and getting them corrected. How can one get them corrected? Then it is a matter of study or studying one's own communication. And that is how the native speakers always do. Probably, or maybe most probably, we can say that it is the second language learners that go randomly at communication, and they do not carry that amount of consciousness while communicating. What is their problem is they believe, that they have anyhow to make use of English for practical purpose. And when you have such kind of a goal to have English learned for a practical purpose, then you need not care much for that language. But since proficiency matters, fluency matters, fluency I shall come maybe in the closing part of my communication with you. But then, if we really wish to develop the levels of proficiency, it's important that we be conscious at learning English. And even though it is a second language for us, we have to learn it the way it goes scientifically, or the way it goes in accordance with the set rules of grammar, without which we cannot have, say, that consciousness developed. And this is the difference, that the native speakers are quite ready to get their mistakes correctly, or say errors correctly. And yes, second time they would not be committing that. Let me also put a difference between error and mistake my own way. Error is something that happens subconsciously, whereas mistake happens, I wouldn't say consciously, etc. But then mistake sometimes happens consciously, and we have to get it corrected. Mistake is something that we do not desire, whereas error becomes part of our natural communication. Anyone can commit errors. And as I said to you, errors are sometimes part of subconscious process, and mistake instantly prompts us to look back to what we have spoken or said. And that is how we can differentiate between the two. We always listen to the things or the phrases like slip of tongue, slip of pen, etc. Slip of pen is a kind of writing which sometimes creates a kind of, say, blunder. Not blunder, but then a kind of mistake which the people do not expect, or even the writer does not expect. While having the pen and paper with us, we keep on writing some sentences, and in the flow of that writing, it is highly possible that we commit the mistakes of certain grammatical words, or maybe function words, or maybe concord is there, and that is called slip of pen. In a continuous flow of writing, when we commit mistakes, that is called slip of pen. And while communicating orally, when we sometimes commit certain mistakes, it is called the slip of tongue. I mean, the mistakes that we never desire, that is called slip of tongue. For example, when we make use of, say, do after he or she, etc. He don't know. Sometimes we, maybe in a hurry, in a rush, tend to say, and that is called slip of tongue. And then naturally we get it corrected like, oh, I'm sorry, I wanted to say, he doesn't know it. So this is the way that slip of tongue or slip of pen works. With this, let me proceed ahead. And here I have chosen certain random examples. For example, we have a statement like, I'm loving it. Many of the people would think as to what is wrong with this. I would say that love is a word that does not take ing participle in continuous tenses, in particular present continuous tense or progressive tense for that matter. Why? Because this is a verb that falls into the category of, say, stative verbs. Stative is a verb that is related to a state, or that is related to inert perception and cognition. And that is why we cannot say, I'm loving it. Rather, we'll have to say, I love it, or I have loved it. These are the random examples I would like to deal with, and then I shall move further. She was not knowing that. Know also falls into the same category. And we find the majority of Indian speakers of English go on communicating this word. Know is the word that is very often used by us Indians in this manner, which is not acceptable to the rules and regulations of standard grammar. Again, there could be the questions. Why should we follow, those methods which were set in by, say, the British or the native speakers? Why can't we have it set for us? Choice is yours. But when it comes to the standard contexts, we have to follow the standard rules of that language. And this does not fit within those rules. And that is why we have to follow that. Are you understanding what I'm saying? See, understand is another verb. I have chosen the same category in the first line. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Understand is a process which is again related to perception and cognition, that is insight. Suppose I listen to someone and I say I'm understanding. What is the guarantee that I necessarily understand? Because this is an abstract process. Understanding is the abstract process, and no one can be assured of it. And that is why the verbs like understanding cannot be acceptable in the progressive sentences. This is again a common error, or maybe we can call it a mistake. We have Mr. John is working here since 1999. What is wrong with this sentence? Many people would say there's nothing wrong. But yes, there's something seriously wrong with this sentence. Mr. John is working here since 1999 means Mr. John joined this place in 1999 and he did not move out of it at all. And that is why, this sentence becomes, slightly ridiculous to understand that way. So, John is working here since morning is all right. Even that is not perfectly all right. When we say John is working here, that is complete. John is working here at this moment. So simple present tense, present continuous tense, this way refers to a specific kind of time, and it cannot cover a major portion of time. And that is why this sentence seems to have carried this error. And then we have how I can get that book. Generally, the Indians, while framing questions, frame them like this. Whereas the rule of the question is that you should be using verb before the pronoun or noun that you are using in that interrogative sentence. And while it is presenting your interrogation this way, you have to look after this rule. Verb, that is auxiliary or main, etc., first, and pronoun or noun next. And that is why it is important to realize that the statement which is interrogative here should be like this: how can I get that book? And then the same statement has been used in the next question. Tell me, how can I get that book? And it is also not appropriate to put this question like this, because tell me is, whenever a sentence begins with a verb, it follows imperative mood. And an imperative mood is supposed to carry a simplified sentence after it. For example, tell me how I can get that book, and at the end, it has to be the full stop. Because you're beginning with an imperative sentence. If it is tell me comma into inverted commas, then that is all right. How can I get that book? But otherwise, it is not appropriate. This is again a common error. When you will send me a message, I will send you the details. What is wrong with this sentence? And we very often listen to such statements by the speakers of English in India. The wrong thing with this sentence is you cannot make use of will 2 times in the same sentence. That is why this sentence is supposed to carry, or in fact, this sentence can be termed as carrying error or mistake for that matter. So, when you send me a message, I'll send you the details. It should be like this. So, the first will should be dropped from this sentence and then it becomes appropriate. Reena had watched a film last night. Now, last night is the past day and or past time we can say, and had also refers to the past tense. So the question might be as to what is wrong with this sentence. The thing that is wrong here is we cannot make use of had in such a context. Why can't we? And the reason is simple, that whenever we refer to the late past, we have to make use of simple past tense, and the appropriate sentence would be Reena watched a film last night. So had has to be dropped from this sentence. I may have kept my glasses there yesterday. See, yesterday is the time that is past, and may is the auxiliary modal or the modal auxiliary, which cannot be used in the past tense. So rather, we have to convert this into a statement like this: I might have kept my glasses there yesterday. Again, some students do not take the test. This is again a habit of the people using my, some together this way. But it should be some of my students rather than my some students. And then we have a verb like trust, which falls into the first category. I wouldn't pay much attention to that. Then just keep attention on it. Usually we slip on the ground of grammar whenever we deal with the function words like prepositions, articles, etc. This happens because we are under the influence of mother tongue. So attention on it. If I were to pronounce a statement of this kind in Marathi, I would say, त्याच्यावर लक्ष ठेव. So where is the word that creates confusion, and then that makes us, causes a habit in us this way, that even in English we start using the preposition there, and it turns out to be a wrong choice. So it should always be like this. Just keep attention to it, not on it. Then we have another statement, which is from your own area. The judge has awarded punishment to the culprit. You always refer to such a statement, but I have always felt this semantically unacceptable a bit. Why? Because award is a word that is usually associated with something that carries honor. Punishment is not an honor. Awarded a sentence, etc., also is a statement that usually goes in the courts. law courts. But then I'm not happy with that. And this is individually what I would like to say, that the judge has declared punishment to the culprit. Now, again, it is a matter of different interpretations. But then award, the category of this word is always associated with something that is honorable. But since it has been a kind of trend that was set long in the past, as long as maybe during the independence times, we find that the same thing carries on. But then I'm not happy with this kind of construction. Speak the own sentence. Again here, own is the word that is wrongly used. We cannot say speak the own sentence. Rather, we should be saying speak your own sentence. Now, the problem with this presentation is that this is an area which has to be dealt with in a two-way fashion. But since we have been restricted to technology, and that kind of physical interaction is not possible, this is going to be a one-way path, which actually deserves to be a two-way interaction. I would have definitely enjoyed this much myself into a classroom, but never mind. Let us also think of these words. Here I have chosen some words from the perspective of spoken English. Spoken English is that which is used in oral communication. And here is a word like useless, but we generally find the people tend to pronounce it as useless. Then it is an error. Wanted. This is the usual pronunciation that we in fact listen to, but it has to be wanted. See, this is the oral error. Attacked. It has to be pronounced as attacked. I mean, there are certain rules of grammar. Ed is the inflection in the language of grammar. Ed is the inflection that is attached to the basic word attack. And the rule of grammar tells us that whenever the word ends in a voiceless sound, like k, I mean, again, it requires some kind of more discussion, but it is not possible for me to again take you to the area of phonetics and grammar that way. So the rule of phonetics and grammar both tells us when a word ends in a voiceless sound, that is a sound like k, p, etc., ch, then the inflection, that is ed, has to be pronounced as t, not d. And we find that the people normally pronounce this word as attacked. There are other words as well. Touched, walked. I mean, there are so many words. Even a word like shame. I mean, he has shamed us. And sometimes the people might tend to pronounce it as he has shamed us. So, these are the things that we have got to avoid. These are the spoken errors. Then we have nation, and the people pronounce it simply as nation. So pronunciation always matters. The better the pronunciation, the better the rhythm of your communication. Original, we find that the people pronounce it as original. Again, a spoken error. In the previous examples, I have dealt with the written errors. Then we have, also the spoken as well as written error in the next word, that is criterias. Now, when criteria is itself a plural noun, why do you wish to pluralize it even further? Extra plurality of it, or extra pluralization of it. It's not welcome at all. So criterion is the main word, whereas criteria is the plural of it. So we should keep avoiding this kind of redundant, pluralization of words. Then children, the same case. The people pronounce it as children's, or maybe they tend to write it again, a slip of pen. Women, we have got the habit of turning certain things into plural as per the rules that are set for most of the words. But we usually do not care for the exceptions that are meant for pluralization. But then the trend continues. Peoples is a plural noun as well, but then there are certain contexts. When you say, I wish to deal with a people, in that context, you can use peoples. Otherwise, people is in itself sufficient as a plural noun, without yes, in most of the contexts. Then we have datas. Datum is the singular noun, data the plural, whereas datas is not acceptable plural noun at all. Then again, spoken error. Fairness. NESS is always pronounced as ness, but it is not ness, it is nus or nis. You can either pronounce it as fairness or fairness. Then again, relative is always pronounced by most of the people as relative, spoken error. Science is always found to be pronounced as science, again, spoken error. Capacity, again, a spoken error. It is capacity. And capable, some of the people tend to pronounce it as capable. It's not capable, but it's capable. Let us also deal with these examples of common errors further. We were not able to stop ourselves from laughing. Under such circumstances, we can make it better like this. We couldn't stop ourselves laughing. So be unable or be not able. Be not able. That is not the context everywhere. So rather we can say, we couldn't stop ourselves laughing. One of the strange person, whenever the phrase one of is used, we find that the noun following it usually carries the plural form of its own. But we find that the people pronounce it in a singular fashion. One of the strange person was present at the event. Rather than this, we should be always saying without fail as one of the strange persons was present at the event. Next one is, we are having a nice and a lavish bungalow. See, when you have already had something, why do you wish to say we are having a nice bungalow, a lavish bungalow, etc.? Having refers to the time that is future. Maybe I can say, I am having a nice bungalow next month, or maybe tomorrow, or maybe in the evening. That means at present, I do not have one with me. And that is why we should always avoid this. I look to hear from you at your earliest. The Indians tend to produce their sentences their own way. But there's nothing wrong in doing that. But then certain norms of grammar, certain norms of language are to be followed. So when there are the set phrases or fixed phrases, we cannot change them individually. When it becomes a social trend, then it is all right. If it becomes a trend to make a sentence like this, no problem at all. But if it is not widely accepted, we cannot make use of such statements. It becomes unacceptable. they become unacceptable. I mean, for example, I look to hearing from you at the earliest rather than your earliest. So whenever it is, I look to, I mean, actually, I wanted to put forward there. I look forward. I missed one word here. Again, error there. I look forward to hearing from you. I wanted to put forward here. Please note here. Look forward to hearing from you at the earliest. Next. I have few friends from the West Bengal. See, whenever you refer to a state, a nation, etc., you're not supposed to make use of a specific article like the West Bengal. You cannot call it the West Bengal. Simply call it West Bengal, and I mean that is the rule of zero article. And then I have few friends. Few always presents a negative connotation. Negative meaning. Few means I have almost none. And that is why an article is required there. I have a few friends from West Bengal is the right sentence, correct sentence. There's little water, the same thing. When you say there's little water left in the glass, that means there's almost no water. But when you say there's a little water left in the glass, that means there's at least some water in the glass. He's coming from London. I mean, we usually put a question, where do you come from? And then the people say, well, I come from Aurangabad. I come from India. I come from London. But we also find the people having had such a habit, he's coming from London. I mean, it means that at present he is coming from London. Actually, he has already lived here for months together. So you cannot say he's coming from London. The dog has stood on its back legs. See, apostrophe is wrongly used in such contexts. When we refer to some noun and wish to replace with it, or maybe possessive form of, not possessive, but yes, possessive that way, but without apostrophe. The dog has stood on its back legs. Here, it apostrophe s always means it is, whereas its without apostrophe means of it. This should be understood. I walked hardly in the morning, again a negative connotation. Hardly in such a context is always a negative interpretation. Rather, we should say, I worked hard in the morning. Me and my friends enjoy ourselves a lot. I, Jane, and Michael enjoy ourselves a lot. You cannot begin a sentence with me. It's important to realize. And that is why we should say, we should replace this statement with this one. My friends and I enjoy ourselves a lot. The same rule for the next sentence. Yes, we should use I, and I should be put at the end. This is the rule of English grammar. Jane, Michael, and I enjoy ourselves a lot. We cannot make use of I in the first place when referring to a group of which we are part ourselves. So it's important. Individually speaking, I cannot make use of I in the beginning of a sentence when referring to a group of which I am part. I should always place myself at the end. We did not went there. This is again a major issue which always happens owing to the slip of tongue. Whenever we make use of did as the auxiliary verb, the main verb following it or accompanying it should always come in its original or infinitive form. So we should always note it. We did not go there. Go is the basic form of it. It is called suppletive form in English. Suppletive in the sense, go becomes went and went becomes gone. Just like good, better, best. Yes. I have taken a poem here, and time is running out. I would not be able to read this poem completely. But you know, there are certain sentences in this poem. For example, friends, our dear sister is departing for foreign. See, usually the Indians, when referring to a foreign country, say, he has gone to foreign. What is foreign? Foreign is an adjective. Foreign is not a noun. And then is departing. I mean, the Indians have the habit of making use of ing participle all the time. That is what has been parodied. This is a parody upon Indian English by Nissim Ezekiel, a well-known and one of the best poets from India. Goodbye party for Miss Pushpa T.S. Party is to, not for. And then in 2-3 days, see how randomly we speak. In 2 or 3 days it should be, but here it is something different. We are meeting today to wish her bon voyage. When you wish someone a bon voyage, there should be an article, indefinite article, a bon voyage. You're all knowing friends. No, I have already spoken of. And now see the lines. What sweetness is in Miss Pushpa. I mean, sweetness is the word that shows great influence of mother tongue. What sweetness is in Miss Pushpa. Concretely speaking, sweetness has not been inside a person. Figuratively, that is all right, but then we can say sweet words, etc., sweet language, etc. But sweetness in Miss Pushpa is something that makes us, laugh a bit. I don't mean only external sweetness, but internal sweetness. Now see, this does not show a logic while communicating. Miss Pushpa is smiling and smiling, even for no reason, but simply because she is feeling. I mean, see how randomly we communicate in English. Miss Pushpa is coming from very high family. I mean, we say Miss Pushpa comes from a very high family. I mean, again, article is missing here, and coming is the word wrongly used. Her father was a renowned advocate. It has to be a renowned advocate. Again, article missing. In Balsar or Surat. I mean, we are not definite while speaking. That is the habit. Habitual communication is also parodied here. I'm not remembering now which place. Remember, cannot be used in the continuous form. Surat. Ah, yes. Once only I stayed in Surat. I mean, I stayed in Surat just once. I mean, that is the usual kind of statement expected here. With family members of my uncle's very old friend. His wife was cooking nicely. I mean, cooking nicely is not acceptable here. His wife cooked nicely. This is what we can say. That was long time ago. That was a long ago. It has to be. Coming back to Miss Pushpa, she is most popular lady. See, again, the article is missing. Coming back to Pushpa, I mean, well, let us think of Miss Pushpa again that way. With men also and ladies also, I mean, also is redundantly used by us. Whenever I asked her to do anything, she was saying, just now only I will do it. See, just now is all right, but only is not. And whenever I asked her to do anything, see, the random way of communication, that showing good spirit. Show again with ing participle. I'm always appreciating good spirit. Appreciate again in the same manner. Pushpa Miss is never saying no. We have developed the habit, particularly at most of the English medium schools. We find that a teacher, lady teacher, has been referred to as Miss after the first name. While it is expected to be pronounced this way, Miss Pushpa, but it is Pushpa Miss. And then whatever I or anybody is asking, I mean, I is used again in the first place. She's always, she says always yes. It is not is, yes. And today she is going to improve her prospect. See, to improve her prospect is not the appropriate line. Rather, we can say making her prospects. To make her prospects. Prospect has to be in the plural form is what we usually find. And we are wishing her bon voyage, the same thing again. Now I ask the speakers to speak, and afterwards Ms. Pushpa will do summing up. Actually, I wanted to spend more time on this poem because that is of great interest to me all the time. Let us move on to the component of proficiency. Why do we require proficiency? To sound impressive, grand, more meaningful, and more communicative. Proficiency is required. Otherwise, the speakers may not be able or may not be sustaining interest in our communication. That is why proficiency always brings about a kind of rhythm that interests the audience. And the proficiency is nothing but it's a kind of ability to do something well. And it requires training and practice as well. And another definition that I would not go for much. But then proficiency is required for certain factors. For example, it brings in accuracy, comprehension, and consciousness. Accuracy of communication is very important. I mean, precision of communication is important, and that could be gained out of the development of proficiency. And when we hold proficiency, we have a kind of special influence on our listeners. The language is not used to impress others, but it can be used to influence others. The difference between influence and impression is that influence has been natural and meant for something that we wish to get good out of something. Whereas impression is always meant for boasting oneself of what skills one has. And that is why we should keep from impression and rather try to get close to influence. I mean, when I influence my students with my language or communication skills, the students can learn something out of that and they can improve upon English. They can improve themselves upon that language, etc. Here, accuracy is another issue. When communication is accurate, there's no confusion at all. And to avoid confusion, we should be speaking. Comprehension. I mean, there are certain things that we do not easily comprehend. Do we really comprehend what is spoken out on the Hollywood screens? We are not easily able to get at whatever is being expressed on Hollywood scenes. I mean, again, there's an issue of, weak forms. Most of the weak forms have been used in that Hollywood communication on the screen. Unless there are subtitles or unless we have a good practice of listening to native communication, we cannot be able to get 100% of it. So comprehension is an issue that is part of proficiency. And consciousness, the level of consciousness is also equally important. Whenever we speak, we are conscious of what we have been speaking. For example, error, mistake, etc. We can instantly get correct. We can revisit what we have spoken. And thinking it over, we try to unlearn what we have wrongly learned, or we try to avoid what we have spoken wrongly in the next communication that we offer ourselves in. And then we have the difference between fluency and proficiency. See, there are some people who believe in developing the level of fluency, but fluency is mostly a matter of speed in communication, or speed of communication for that matter. When you have the speed of communication does not necessarily mean that you have accuracy and you have consciousness. This is the difference that we find between fluency and proficiency. Now, fluency also has two meanings, but I have derived the basic meaning of it. I mean, the speed of communication. When you deal with another definition of fluency, then it is equal to that of proficiency. I mean, there's great skill, etc. You have language, a felicity of language for that matter, or consanity of language. But then speed is not always important. Even if your communication goes at a slower speed, if it makes sense, that is more important than the fluency that lacks accuracy, comprehension, and consciousness. Then what is the fluency, proficiency used for? You can convince the people. Suppose you want to argue. Your argument cannot be convincing unless you have the level of proficiency developed. Because arguments beget arguments. But if you wish to stop this process, if you wish your audience to stop at the end of what you have explained through your argument, then it means that you have developed the proficiency level. If you want to stop it, then you must have proficiency for that purpose. This is what actually I meant. Ability to analyze, compare, and contrast the things, situation, people, etc. Do we have the ability to analyze these? To analyze a situation, we require proficiency. To compare certain things, we require proficiency. To contrast the things. If we are able to distinguish between the things, that means, convincingly, of course, we have proficiency level with us. Otherwise, we are saying something the audience not in a position to getting convinced. No use of it. Situation, people. See, the people that usually handle a chaotic situation, they do so on the basis of their proficiency levels. This is again a part of soft skills, which I have put at the end of this slide. Soft skills matter a lot, and they can be developed out of proficiency. Presentation of alternative points of view and evaluation of the situation, people, etc. If we go with the same idea time and again, who would listen to us? Why can't we have an alternative point of view? If we have an alternative point of view, then the audience have the choice to choose between the two. And that is why proficiency helps us, even evaluation. When we wish to evaluate a situation, we should have at least two plans, plan A, plan B. If plan A doesn't work, we can apply plan B there, and we can deal with that situation successfully, or people for that matter. Competence to debate. See, debating is the art which requires the skill of highest order, because out of debate, very harmful consequences can come. And out of debate, also the serious issues can be successfully dealt with. If there's debate, you can, out of your arguments, convince your audience, but then that competence is required. And this competence is possible when proficiency is there. When you discuss, you should have attention of your audience fixed on what you are saying. That is how the result of proficiency has been. And hypothesizing. This is very important, because in a hypothetical situation, you have nothing concrete with you, but to present a kind of simulation of concreteness, you should have the hypothetical ability. And this is possible when proficiency is there. We have nothing on our hand, and we wish to, say, for example, show the people as if we have everything. Then this capacity works there. creative approach with imaginative disposition. Yes, creativity is very important everywhere. In language, what is creativity? The way you shape your sentences, which in fact interest your audience because they are different from what is usual. Imaginative disposition. I mean, when your mind is imaginative, this all happens under proficiency. Then application of logic or justification of your own statement or explanation. These become part of proficiency. And yes, there are new words, new syntax, new semantics. We choose some very simple words, for example, that are not known to the people. One word, one meaning that has been the usual or regular equation with people. If I say cow, cow is the only one interpretation for most of the people. Cow is an animal. But when I say, they cowed us down, I mean, cow is the word. When used as a verb, makes a different sense. They cowed us down. That means they terrified us. So such new words, I mean, new in the sense, the context in which you make use of them happens to be new. And that is why the words also seem new. New syntax. I mean, sometimes we make use of passive voice in a creative manner. And that syntax is nothing but the sentence structure. I wish I could deal with the basic sentence structures as well, but I'm afraid there are limitations. And semantics. Semantics and syntax are closely related to each other. Without one, the other is incomplete. See, I always give this example. The sun rises in the west. Grammar, I mean, syntax is completely correct, but meaning is not. So structure and meaning should go together, and that happens under proficiency. If syntax is correct and meaning is not, the sentence becomes meaningless. If semantics is okay, but syntax is not, still, there's something wrong with it. So proficiency can help us do away with this. See, we have idioms and phrases. The language that is filled with idiomatic expressions always becomes more impressive, grand style we can call it. Idioms are the words which do not give us the apparent meanings that we expect. For example, over the moon. Over the moon, the common understanding would be that someone has visited the moon. But actually, when someone says, well, I'm over the moon, that means I'm extremely happy. Right or wrong? I mean, there's something that is seriously, wrong caused by someone. And someone is responsible to correct that wrong. That is what it means. Take exception to. It means to condemn strongly. Cock an ear or eye at. That means to be fully attentive with the help of your ear or eye. So these are the idioms that we usually find. There are so many idioms. Idioms and phrases are informal in a great number, but there are also formal idioms and phrases. For example, the office like a judge's has been always given to formal communication. So we cannot make use of informal idioms and phrases there. Rather, we should go for what are the formal idioms and phrases. I wouldn't stay more on this. I can, of course, but then, yes, time is running out. The phrase, we have, say, some 5 kinds of phrases. One is noun phrase, the other verb phrase, adjective phrase, adverb phrase, prepositional phrase. For example, a clever student. This is a noun phrase because noun is the central part of this phrase. A clever student. Extremely bad. This is adjective, an adjective phrase. In the garden, this is a prepositional phrase. Quite happily, this is an adverbial phrase. Shall have been, this is a verb phrase. I shall have been. doing that. So these phrases always help us to develop our structures further. They are the constituents. They are the words that are meaningfully strung together. Then we have one word substitution. I'll deal with this and then I'm done. Yes. What is the use of one word substitution? See, communication always demands precision, minimum time, maximum communication. That is in fact what the people expect. And we can do it with the help of certain techniques. One of them is one word substitution, which is also part of your curriculum. What is the gain that we have out of it? It saves time and space as well. And it brings precision. Being more and more precise, being short at communication is always helpful. For example, a sentence like this: she is someone whom people respect a lot. Someone whom people respect a lot. These are the 6 words which can be replaced with just one word. She's a respected person, that is all. See, we have saved our time. We have also saved space. Some people have the habit of going at length in their communication, but that could be well avoided, because if your communication is verbose, filled with many, many words, it bores the audience, the listener. And if our communication is short and pithy, naturally, the people would be able to give us an ear with a lot of interest. He told us the story without using too many words. And we can simply say, he told us the story precisely, without using too many words, either 5 words, which can be replaced with just one word, one adverb, and it is precisely. Then we have, John's a person who does not believe in God. We can simply say John is an atheist rather than a person who does not believe in God. 2, 2, 2, 6 plus 2, 8 words can be replaced with just one word. Don't tell me the stories that entail a lot of emotions. The stories that entail a lot of emotions, there are only 2 words with which we can replace these. Don't tell me the sob stories. That is all. He's the one that hates women. The one that hates women is always called a misogynist. This is how we can substitute many words with a single one. That can save us time, space, disturbance, and of course, bring in precision. So with this, I would like to say, again, thank you very much to everyone that was part of this, session of mine. And I'm really so happy that I could be in touch with you all. And yes, more importantly, I would like to say that I am so much grateful to the Honorable Principal in charge, Mr. Sirsat. I think he is in charge, Principal. Mr. Shri Kishan More, who has been a 2 decades friend now. And Mr. Vyas, also everyone that happens to be part of this team. And this is really a very appreciable initiative taken by the college, that is MP Law College. MP Law College is an institute that is not only known across Marathwada region or India. I suppose that might also be known beyond India. And across India, I've known that it has had a great prestige, because when I discuss the issues of association of MP Law College with Principal Rao, at that time I could realize that this college has great prestige across the country, and of course the grade and everything. I mean, so being part of this institute again, maybe for a third time, I suppose, I was I'm really so happy. And again, I would like to thank each one from this college, and of course, my sincere thanks are due to each member from the audience side for having given me a patient ear, I suppose. With this, I would again I would like to say, if there are any questions, I would be happy with the answering questions more than with my own presentation. I hope I have justified my position as a speaker of this session. In case there are certain things that you wish to discuss, you're most welcome. Thank you very much, one and all. Over to you.
Thank you, sir, for your informative lecture. Can we start question answer session?
Sure, sir.
Sir, one question is that how to use me in sentences, give with example.
A very good question. I welcome it. When I say, suppose there's a question, who is that? I say, it's me. And I stop there. Me at the end of such a statement is the appropriate use of it. And one more thing I would like to tell about me is a pronoun that is usually used in an informal way. Okay, sir?
Sir, another question is, what is difference between idioms and phrase?
Okay. Idioms are the group of words that seem to be showing a general level meaning, but actually the meaning of them has been quite different from what is apparently understandable or understood. For example, we have an idiom like every dog has his day, or every dog has its day. It does not mean that we are speaking about the dogs. It means that we are speaking about a person who has been on the receiving end at present, might find a better opportunity tomorrow to be off that receiving end. Okay, sir? And yes, phrases are the words like, noun phrase, prepositional phrase that have been used to develop the sentence structure. For example, when I say one of the brilliant students in the class, so one of is one phrase. I mean, rather than phrase, we can, one of is one phrase. The most brilliant students, this is the noun phrase, in the class. Again, this is a prepositional phrase. The phrases always help us at the syntactic level, I mean, to develop the structures, whereas idioms always deal with the meanings that have been unusual, or maybe mostly we can say that are not easily traceable. So idioms give us unusual meanings or unexpected meanings, number one. And secondly, the use of idioms always creates a kind of special impact, or say beauty of language. And mostly we find that in standard contexts, idiomatic English is preferred. So this is the difference between the two. Phrases help us to produce syntax, and idioms help us produce some kind of influence.
Sir, you stop your screen and over to Mihir to ask some questions.
Okay, yes, sir. Just a second. Is it fine, sir, now?
Yes, okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So, sir, for the first question we have from Zoom chat box is when can we use had, sir?
Has.
Had.
Had.
The past, I believe.
Yes, when we refer to a thing of distant past, we can make use of had. For example, and sometimes when we have to make use of past perfect and simple perfect together, at that time, had is mostly used. How? Let us see. I can say, well, I had gone there some 5 years ago. So this is the distant past. So to refer to distant past, generally we refer to had. Generally we use had. And while it is the case of late past, etc., we can go for simple past that way.
Thank you, sir. The second question is how to use would. Can you give us some examples?
Well, good can be used in many contexts. For example, she's a good person.
Sir, would, sir. Will, past tense, would. That was the question.
Would, okay. W-O-U-L-D. That is what, okay. Would is usually used in the past tense. And in formal communication, that can also be used to refer to something that is related to future time. There's no future tense, but future time. And yes, I can say, I would visit Aurangabad once a week. That means that is my habit, with the help of which, with the help of would, I can say, express. I would go there. I would attend classes regularly. This is how I can use it. And another thing is that if I have to refer to someone's action, I can use would in that context too. For example, my father would bring me sweets. So that is how you can use. And if it is to be used, say, in the context of future time, we can also use it like this. Well, if it's possible, I would be happy to accompany you. That is how I can use it, but that becomes a wholly formal context. Okay?
Thank you, sir. Sir, the third question is which book should we prefer for English, sir?
This is a major question, actually, problematic one. Let me know the context so that I can refer to the exact book, or I can point to the exact book. See, about English grammar, I would say that there are as many as thousands of books. But if I understand your purpose, for example, competitive examinations, you have certain regular books like Wren and Martin's or Pal and Suri's. And for development of practical communication, you have Thompson and Martinet's Practical English Grammar. You also have Communicative English Grammar by Ian Swartwick and Jeffrey Leach. And there's also a book called, English Grammar Today. And we also have a book by Oxford, Sydney Greenbaum, Oxford Advanced Grammar. And there's also another book by Randolph Quirk and Sydney Greenbaum, A Student's Grammar of the English Language. So there are so many books. Apart from this, if you wish to simply get focused upon developing your writing skills, there's a book called The Call to Write, which is, I think, published by Longman. But this is a bit more costly book. But then that can be had for your purpose. So these are the books that I can randomly refer to. There are so many, but then choice matters there. And aim matters, what aim you are using it for.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is, can you suggest some measures for us to improve our vocabulary?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat it?
Yes, sir. The question is, can you suggest some steps for improving our vocabulary?
Texts. text for vocabulary improvement, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, you have the various kinds of thesaurus. Thesaurus by Oxford University Press. I mean, that publication has published the thesaurus of English, which carries as many as 6 lakh words. I mean, more than 500,000 words. So antonyms and synonyms are there. And also there are idioms included in it to some extent. And if you go through that, that can help. Also, there is, there are a number of other sources to develop your vocabulary. Better you go for reading novels, magazines, and say newspapers of standard kind. And if you continuously refer to a good dictionary, they can help you for sure to overcome the issue of vocabulary development. You're muted, Mihir. You're muted. Unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. So the next question is, what is the difference between accuracy and precision?
Well, accuracy and precision can be used alternatively. Still, accuracy has a wide canvas because the data that you have in a major form can be used to mean accuracy. Precision means whatever you write, it should be up to a certain say level, up to a certain limitation. For example, there should not be verbosity, there should be clarity, etc. And that is what precision is understood for. And accuracy means whatever you do, there has to be everything that is accurate. Yes, as I said to you, they can be alternatively used, accuracy and precision. But then if you still wish to minutely go at both, then this can be the explanation. Okay.
Okay, sir. For the last question, can you tell us about the syllabus of CET exam?
I'm sorry. CET, do you mean CET of LLB?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Law CET.
I'm afraid I do not have idea about that. But, whatever components I have received from, my friend Mr. More, the syllabus of this CET is, just a second, please. It is vocabulary, under which synonyms, antonyms, and analogies are covered. Proficiency, under which idioms and phrases, one word substitution, sentence improvement and rearrangement, fill in the blanks, etc. is covered. English usage errors, under which common errors, spotting errors, inaccurate usage of words, inappropriate usage of words, spelling mistakes, etc. are covered. English comprehension with minimum 2 passages followed by 5 to 10 questions that test reading and reasoning abilities. So that is the syllabus, that is the curriculum I have got to share with you. Actually, it might have already been shared with you, but this is what I can tell you. One component I left out is that of, I suppose, sentence improvement and rearrangement. but owing to the dearth of time, it wasn't possible for me to deal with that.
Thank you very much, sir. I do not have any further questions.
Okay.
Our next keynote speaker, Professor Sajirao Narvade, sir, also does not need any introduction. But
Sorry to
still,
disturb you, Mihir.
yes, sir.
There's a message from Mr. More. He has said, please visit the website of CET cell for detailed syllabus. Also, we have posted it on webinar WhatsApp group. So the syllabus is available there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.